Hey, welcome to the Mashcast episode 20. We did it. 2 sets of 10, 10 sets of 2. However you want to put it. I'm Kenny, joined this week. We have a special guest, Billy.
Oh, hi.
How are you?
Harry.
Viewers, if you're at this point, comment below who you think Billy looks like and let us know.
Oh.
Charlie, as always, how are you, Charlie?
I know who he looks like. He looks like himself.
Oh, there you go.
I'm glad to have him.
So, Charlie, this is your episode. You know, you've got the PS5.
Guess. So, yeah.
You're going to show us all about it and kind of give us your review. You know, if people should buy one, if people should sell it for $1,000 instead. Just kind of.
I would say don't do that unless you want to be a scumbag, but that's your prerogative, I guess.
It's a free country.
Yeah. I just want to say I sympathize with all the people still trying to get one that want one. But you'll be able to get one eventually. They'll be in stores at some point next year. I've pretty much gone through most of the major content, at least in my opinion, that I would want to check out. I'm still playing through Demon Souls, but I've gotten a couple other games on here that I want to show off. But first, we can just sort of go over the menu features and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the biggest thing is the UI, in my opinion, just from what we're looking at right now. I have mixed feelings on it.
I like it. It looks clean.
It's basically the PS4, but smaller because it's 4K, I guess.
Okay.
It's still this straight up, you just have a row of 10 things. You can't have any folders, just like at the beginning of the PS4. So there's not really any good way to organize it all, and it just disappears. I don't know how I feel about that. The other thing is, instead of, on PS4 where you'd press up from this sort of row to get your system settings sort of thing,
mm-hmm.
Instead you're pressing the PlayStation button on the controller and then going down to this bottom bar to get the same feature set that you have a little bit of control over from there. You press options from there. You can edit some of the things that you want to see on it, but I don't know. It's just a bit too much work compared to PS4 because this bottom bar can take a couple seconds sometimes to show up.
What kind of streaming apps can you get on it right now?
So good question, actually. Pretty much everything that you'd care about. Netflix, YouTube, Twitch, Hulu, Amazon Prime. The only thing I didn't see and isn't up yet is HBO Max.
That's frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really use this much as a media center, but it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it'll come out eventually and not be like a Nintendo Switch situation where they don't put any effort into putting anything on that.
Yeah, I want Netflix on my Switch so bad.
Yeah, but actually, talking about streaming services, they separate the games from media bar. Okay. So you just in the top left, you can toggle your other stuff there. I will say though, be careful of what streaming app you download, because if you go back to games and I go to a game and I scroll down, they give you a list of activities and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If you keep scrolling down, then you start getting your services for broadcast.
Oh, there might be spoilers.
Yeah, and that'll depend on if you have YouTube or Twitch installed. It'll, before I had Twitch installed, it was only showing YouTube stuff.
Yeah, just so everyone knows, we are not necessarily endorsing Speed Start X, Narusam 1017, Left in Silence 07, or VZE, well, whatever. Okay.
Yeah. These aren't, and to be clear, these aren't even people, I have my Twitch account linked up. These aren't even people that I'm following or anything. It's just throwing random people at you on this bar. I don't know how they decide this.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like complete randomness to me. But yeah, so just watch out for that. The biggest thing when you're checking out each games, though, that they change is the activity cards, which are like progress meters, I guess, for each game. Some of them have been better than others, but general idea is kind of like what quest you're currently on.
Now, do you think, have you played any PS5 multi-platform games yet?
Just a little bit of Yakuza.
Okay. Because, well, I mean, that's a PS4 game, but I mean, I'm talking about something that would have cards. Like, let's say you load up Call of Duty, whatever the new one is,
yes,
would that have
actually,
this?
So, Bugsnax, actually, I have played that, and it does.
Well,
But
I mean, I guess I'm talking more about something that would be on Xbox and PS5.
Okay.
Like how
No, I have not.
How incentivized are devs going to be to put this kind of thing in their game?
Yeah, that I'm not too confident on. Like, you even just saw between switching over from Demon Souls to this, Bugsnax actually has a percentage meter, just because it's more of a simpler quest to calculate, I think, compared to Demon Souls, where that can be very dependent on your skill set, how long it's going to take. But like if I click on one, it gives a little bit of detail. Sometimes, like for Astrobot, when I was first trying that out, it would give actual time estimate of how long that was going to take you.
How does it?
I don't know how they calculate that. I guess they just go off an average of the testers that were running it. But that game's also really simple linear platforming, so it's a little easier to give an estimate like that. I wouldn't expect that for a lot of games going forward. And really, the best part of it, honestly, is just that it's like a quick, another quick load option. Because at any point, I could just hit resume on this card and go into game where this mission would expect you to start.
Gotcha.
I don't know if all games do that, but they might just have you load in to the main game hub or something like that instead of like a specific starting area.
Yeah, this seems like something I wouldn't expect to see. Like, you might see it in Valhalla, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and you might see it in the newest Call of Duty, but I think later on this thing's going to just get kind of dropped off.
I wouldn't say dropped off, but I don't think it's going to be super detailed. Like, the only reason I bring them up at all really is because it's an interesting case for Demon Souls, because you can actually use that to go to a different area. Like, say if you're in, there's 5 main areas of Demon Souls. If you're in one, you're not near a bonfire that you could warp between other locations with. You could open up the PlayStation menu, go to one of those activity cards, and then you'd be warped to that other area.
Well, Charlie,
without having to worry about going back to a bonfire, which is like a crazy game-breaking thing, in my opinion.
Show us. Let's take a look.
I can.
We've got the power.
It does cost you all of the souls, though, so it's not.
Yes, that's the only thing that they considered is you do lose your souls when you do that.
So it's basically the not the homeward bone, but the dark sign in Dark Souls, where you could use that at any point to go back to the main area or a bonfire, I guess, or the nexus or the hub, wherever the heck it's called, right?
Yes, yeah, the nexus.
So in this one, there's the nexual binding that you could use that kind of similarly, whatever.
Yeah, I actually. So I was gonna kind of do these in order, but you guys were so interested in seeing Demon Souls, so I guess I'll just share it now.
That's the only thing worth about. Like, that's the only thing anyone cares about on the console.
I would disagree, and that is why I wanted you on this show, because I think of the 3 things I played, this might be the worst.
That's just crazy.
So uh,
Worst.
it kind of is, honestly. I mean, that might be exaggerated a bit. Bugsnax is not better than Demon's Souls, but it's not as good as I was expecting it to be. So a lot of that is because of the remake decisions they made. But back to your point about the Nexo binding. So this little bar that I accessed is a new feature they added from the touchpad. That's just a few extra items you can access. So I have that quick selected there. So yeah, that you can press at any point at any time to lose all your souls and return to the Nexus. But the activity card thing I was talking about is I could just be walking around anywhere in this area, press the home screen, and now it's not showing the activity card. So never mind, I'm a liar.
I mean,
That's really weird.
I know what you mean, but
Yeah.
it seems like all it would do is save you from having to walk over to the different arcstone. Like it's
No, I'm saying like in level, I could warp directly to another level without having to go back to a bonfire or the Nexus to access the Archstone.
I mean, it saves you a step, but it's not much more different. It all it does is save you the step from walking from the spawn point in the Nexus to the Archstone.
So no, I'm saying directly from in level, you could go to another level.
Yeah, but
without even having to go back to this. So it's like 2 steps. But yeah, it's like not that big of a deal, but it's a lot of little things like that that make me question this game. The other big thing is the photo mode. So same from the touchpad, you can go to this, and if you're not online, well, even if you are online, it'll pause the game if you're not in an active invasion from another player, which, like, whatever, I don't really care that you can pause the game. That's frankly something that should be in there for people that don't really have time to play for hours on end without pausing. But it comes with a bunch of weird side effects that they didn't really consider when redesigning this. So normally, when you start the game, you'll get this telescope from Oscar, who's this main NPC in the game that they've had in a lot of games that let you zoom in. Now, this has basically become obsolete when you can go into photo mode outside of this, and you can freely move around and zoom in more than you can with the telescope and have the game paused, so you don't have to worry about getting attacked. Like, also just to the point where, like, there's areas where they're very vertical and you're trying to figure out what you can land on below you, or if there's an item hidden below you that you don't want to worry about falling off a ledge and going into a pool of swamp and wasting a bunch of time or not. This is like game breaking, in my opinion, in that aspect.
Game breaking or just modern conveniences?
I'd say game breaking.
I would lean further on that than modern conveniences. Being able to freely and safely scout ahead via like
it's huge
3D everything is a little. I don't know if I would go as far as saying game breaking, but it definitely is a major departure from the game.
You know, it defeats the points of almost any sign or message that would just say, hey, beware of this trap, or hey, beware of this number of enemies in front of you. Like,
but
why would I have to worry
ultimately,
about that when I can just check out it myself?
but if you want that authentic
with no
experience,
consequence.
if you want that authentic experience, you can just not use photo mode. It's like,
yeah,
well, it comes
I
back
100%. You can ignore it.
Yeah.
It's fine that they have that option. It's not like it's really gonna mess up anyone who doesn't want to deal with that. It just feels to me like they didn't really think about this stuff when they were adding it in.
Yeah. I mean, a note saying, "Hey, watch out for this guy upstairs who's going to throw a boulder at you." Unless you're that still tells you, "Oh, I need to be careful because there's a guy upstairs going to throw a boulder at me." If you're just playing the game normally, unless you're like walking every 4 steps, going to photo mode and scouting out the next, 3 feet ahead of you, and then you walk those 3 feet. I mean, you
That sounds pretty awful. So,
Yeah,
like,
I mean, no one's really going to do that. I'm just saying it's definitely a change in design that they
yeah.
probably didn't
Oh,
anticipate.
I agree
There's
with that.
it's just a lot of little things like that that have kind of built up for me. Like the other big thing I've noticed that they've added is so unlike other Souls games, if you go to the menu, uh, so in most Souls games you have an equip burden that you can see on the top right, which is just based on your weapons and armor and rings and arrow type stuff that you have selected. But you also, in this game, I don't think it's in any other Souls game, have a item burden,
It's
which
not
is
any
based on
other.
the number of things that you're carrying. Like if you pick up other armor or other healing items or that sort of thing that aren't in your active equip menu, that's a separate burden load that you have to carry. But what they added to this remake is if you exceed that limit, it'll give you the option to send it back to Stockpile Thomas, which is a guy in the hub area that will store all your stuff. Which is like, that's a nice feature to add, but then it brings up the point of, well, if you added that, why can't I just do that from any point in like any bonfire? Why couldn't I just send it back to him? It just seems like they wanted to make something to make it a little more accessible, but they didn't really think through what that meant.
well,
Because what happens is I can't when I try to pick up an item, it'll just say, "Hey, do you want to return this item back?" without knowing what it is.
mm,
So it's like if I can return something, why can't I just choose what I'm returning? It doesn't really seem like they thought it out.
I mean, it's better than you killing, Executioner Matilda and son of a bitch, you don't have enough item burden to carry her axe, so the axe gets thrown in the garbage because you have to go back to the Nexus, drop off all the, rocks you forgot to drop off before you went in to Blackwell Tenancy 1-1, and then, you don't get the axe from Matilda.
Well,
I
that's
mean,
what I'm
I'm
saying.
not speaking
That's,
from
I mean, I'm.
experience, but I mean that would be a real crummy thing to happen to someone and probably sour them on it.
I mean,
Axe had
I
to fail.
totally agree. It just instead of completely solving the problem, it's creating new problems because I still end up having too many sharp stones or whatever that mean I can't carry the new or try out the new weapon I just found because it goes back to Stockpile Thomas because it's too heavy for me to
I mean,
oh,
carry
I
in
I
my
am
item. So it's
fine
just
with you.
adding the step of I still have to go back.
Well, yeah,
It's like
that's why the item.
it's just
I mean,
weird.
item burden is part of Demon Souls, and it's like they could have gotten rid of item burden altogether, but they didn't want to do it because people would wet themselves. So they added in this way to keep item burden, but make it so you don't lose Matilda's axe. And I think it's a pretty cool compromise, between the two things. Like they they
It's
they they,
I
they claim
guess
they wanted
yeah.
to keep it really close to the original, but they added in these tiny, these little things like transporting items that would go over your item burden, or uh you know 4 or 8 way roll, which does change up the game a bit, but
Mhm.
it's
There's also if I go back to the Nexus, I can see off a few more stuff. Yeah, it's just if you're a new player to the game, it's fine. It's probably better for you that way. Just as someone who did play the original Demon Souls, it feels weird to me. Like I'm not necessarily saying that it makes the game worse. It's just that when I see that, I think it feels like a compromise and not they didn't try to design from scratch a better way to do it.
I mean,
is all I'm saying.
they 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 didn't. That was not the point of this
Yeah.
game.
Well, and that's what I'm saying is that, like, I know that's what Bluepoint does. They just put a new coat of paint on games pretty much. But when I notice all these little things that weren't really talked about, it's like, well, they're trying to do more, but they're not quite getting there, in my opinion, at least.
So would you have preferred they got rid of item burden altogether?
Yes, I hate item burden. It's a stupid,
Okay.
wasteless effort. Like, I don't know why. I know why they got rid of it in the rest of the games.
Yeah.
I forgot how much I hated it from playing the PS3 version. Basically, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So it's a
Okay.
complete
All right.
waste of time. It's a
It is.
complete
It
waste
is
of
an
time.
extra annoying. It is an extra, thing you have to manage, an extra stat,
Are you here for more? Very well.
and it's a way to, like in this game, they increase the weight of the healing wares, so
I owe my life.
it
Yes, that was the other thing I was going to say is they increased some other uh, item burden costs essentially, so that it's even worse if you're not paying attention to your item management.
yeah. I mean, I think that's a again.
Are you here?
I
Very well.
I haven't played it, admittedly, but just hearing about it, I can see why they did make these compromises, and I kind of like them because they could limit you to only being able to carry 5, of each type of grass, or they could increase the weight of the grass, and so you can decide, do I want to carry a bunch of arrows and other nonsense, multiple weapons, multiple bows, or do I just want to carry my sword and my shield, my regular set of armor, and then just fill my pants with grass?
Well, see, the problem is what happens, at least for me, is when I'm going through a level, I'm trying to pick up every item I can along the way. And what ultimately happens is a lot of those items end up being healing items or poison cures or whatever. So that is what fills up the inventory first. And then anything more interesting that's a rarer drop, like a weapon or an armor set or something like that, that's ultimately heavier, ends up getting sent back to Stockpile Thomas. And I don't have the option to choose that versus what I'm getting. So it creates little annoyances in the design when
But
you're
I mean
playing a normal level.
that issue was there in the base game.
Yes, which is why I'm disappointed because I know when I heard Bluepoint was making this, I was still kind of hoping that they would do a little more than just
Okay.
update the graphics. Is what I'm saying. Like
Okay.
I know I should have expected that because it's Bluepoint, but it kind of makes me feel like they wasted the effort on remaking it.
Yeah. I mean, remakes are weird when
Exactly. I'm
like
not
the
adverse to the idea of remakes. Like I like the idea of some other dev's interpretation of a game. It's especially if you play the first one, it makes you start thinking about what you might have wanted in terms of a change, and then that can create problems.
well, they also strike this weird balance where there's like, oh, we're respecting the original creator's vision, but then they add in photo mode where you can make, dumb meme faces, or
Yeah,
they
that was the other thing.
they they increase like your dodging options, or they give you a way to sort of mitigate item burden, or they add in,
Yeah.
new drops, a whole new area where it's just like,
Mhm.
okay, I mean, you're saying you care about the creator's original vision, but then you're going in and making these changes. So
Exactly. It just seems weird. Like also like these preview videos they added in. That's a great feature for you to get a better idea of what the heck you're going to be buying because before you didn't really know unless you looked it up on YouTube.
Do
Like
you, do you
there's good changes in here. Most of them I think are good. It's just some of them are weird.
do you
And I know we're
feel
getting really in the weeds, but that's
do you feel as a longtime Souls fan that maybe you have been left behind in kind of exchange for because okay, so right, the original Demon Souls, right? People love Souls games. but that was wasn't it kind of a game that kind of came out under the radar? It wasn't a launch title or anything. This, however, is being given like the big push by Sony as a launch title and everything, and kind of, they're trying to, they have to try to appeal to a wider audience. Do you feel that you've been left behind?
I don't know if I'd say that. I think this is more just that would have happened with this game regardless because so few people bought it. The rest of the Souls games were bought well enough.
Yeah.
It's not like I think every Souls game is going to be like this now.
But do you think
made obvious changes since then?
Do you think that's
like,
part?
Frankly, I think this is probably the easiest game. Dark Souls 3 and Sekiro, which were the two previous before this, were some of the hardest. I don't see like those design changes from this being reflective in their future stuff. That's not that big of a deal to me either. Even if it was, I care about these games more for the exploration and atmosphere that they give more than anything. Like the difficulty's not really ever been that big of a thing for me. But I will definitely say they probably considered people new to the series. Because this is a really good looking game. I will say that.
And we're only able to see it in 720.
Yeah. And 4K 60, it's pretty beautiful. I played the whole thing in performance. There's an option to do it in cinematic, which is just 4K 30. And I switched between them a little bit, and I honestly didn't really notice much of a difference. So it's better just have the frames. I will say, though, I was wrong when we talked about it, however long ago that was. This game doesn't have ray tracing. But whatever they're doing does look really good, because it's one of the best looking games I've seen this year for sure.
There have been a lot of instances where I see like stuff from Spider-Man where it's like, this is with ray tracing turned on, this is with ray tracing turned off, and I'm kind of like, maybe I like the ray tracing off. Because maybe I like lighting when there's artistic intent to it, and not just like, well, this is how light would behave normally, so this is what it looks like. Maybe I don't need that, verisimilitude in my games.
And I would say I'd probably prefer the frame rate. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, you can use ray tracing for other things like audio sources and that sort of stuff. Just the way other physics interact doesn't have to just be lighting necessarily.
So, Charlie, you've been ragging on this game a lot.
Yeah, but I will say, like, I was ragging on the photo mode, but if I go over to my media gallery, I've taken like 200 photos of this game. Oh. It's fucking beautiful. Like, this guy, I didn't even remember he was a boss in this game, and I still can't tell you what his name is.
Scarecrow.
It looked like Colossus something.
The Rotten Colossus or something?
Sure, I'll believe you.
5'2"? 5'3"?
Yes. So that was why I wanted to play this game, was because I didn't remember a lot of the like little intricacies and a couple of the bosses from when I last played it like 8 years ago. But just going back through it, it's freaking gorgeous. And they also added in the other new thing was this statue, which you can access if you give 25,000 souls. And it lets you either get forgiveness from killing some in-game player. I think you could do that before, just maybe not here directly. Fractured World, which is basically a mirrored mode. And it's what I'm playing on right now. And that was another little weird design thing, because what happens is it mirrors the world, but then you still have the same like messages laid down on the floor that are, say, be careful on the right. but you're mirrored, and it's actually the left. If you're not paying attention, it's like, oh shit.
So is this why your character is left-handed?
Yes, actually. So what happens was the control inputs don't change, but the character arms do. So if I swing R1, it's swinging the left hand, which normally it would not do that if you're not in fractured mode.
Can you
so
not
that's
customize your controls?
I mean, I could change the hands in game, but no, that wouldn't change the button presses.
So if you go to settings, there's nothing to do that?
No. Which was another annoying thing about this game because like if you go here, it just tells you the controls. Which is
I see.
Yeah, there's no change. Which was another annoying thing because it ties the run button down to circle, and it is silly because they don't use the L3 at all, and that would make much more sense for running, so you don't have to make a claw to run and swing your weapon at the same time.
Now,
which is what happened in a lot of Souls games.
How is the?
But I don't want to rag on this game anymore. I want to talk about the good stuff.
How is the haptic feedback? Because that's one of the things I'm most skeptical about with PS5. Because the Switch advertised HD Rumble, right? And the only game that ever really used it in a cool way was that stupid 1-2 Switch game with the ice cubes in the controller.
Right. So I will say that's kind of why I wanted to start with Astrobot, because it's so much better there. But I would say even in the use cases that it does in this game, it's better than 1-2 Switch. Like I don't know if I can get this zoomed in well, but I don't know how they do it with this controller, but just the amount of motors they have in this thing that they can fine tune in terms of senses is crazy. So I kind of doing a magic build for this. So if I do this fire spell, you'll kind of feel like a steady rumble that goes up from the bottom of the controller down towards the top, and it slowly builds up in strength enough to where it feels like an actual pulse, like you're actually shooting a flame off.
All right, that's cool.
Or arrow spell or something like that. If you have a bow, and I guess I should also mention under settings in the controller, I have immersive mode on. You can turn this stuff off if you don't want a bunch of extra rumble jitteriness, or normal just lets you change the sensitivity.
See,
so
I
you
would
don't have
want
to have any of this on if you don't want to, but stuff like the bow, like your trigger will tighten up and you'll have to push it down a little harder to actually get a bit more force out of the arrow. Just stuff like that. It's like it's gotten to the point where I don't even think about it just because it feels so natural. Because for this and Astrobot, and they did a little bit in Bugsnax too, it's just they integrated so well with the audio design that it just feels sort of like an extension of that. If you get what I'm saying.
No, I do, and that's one of the things that I'm worried about with this console specifically is that, like Last of Us 3 will have it, Last of Us 2 will probably have it whenever they do the PS5 version of that. But your Uncharted, all of your Sony first-party titles will do it. But in a year, do you think that the new Assassin's Creed and Call of Duties, and those are like the only multi-platform games I can think of right now, do you think those games will be doing HD or
right?
Haptic feedback?
That's a big question. Yeah.
If Sony gives them enough money and says, "Hey, develop and add in this feature," then they will. If Sony doesn't care, because it's been a year and oh man, look how you can feel the heartbeat of your horse as you massage its legs really weirdly in RDR2.
I think I missed that part of the game.
I don't know. People are talking about horse nuts and stuff, so I just
It's horse poop, yeah.
yeah. Oh man, you can I get it. That's what I think. It depends if where's I getting at? I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
Yeah, I agree. It just depends on how much money Sony wants to support them with. Same with the activity cards. Like
I
um,
I remember
for
now.
first party stuff, if you have PS Plus, they'll even show you like preview or hint videos of what you should be doing for that quest. For Astrobot, since I was more of a basic platformer, it was much more specific on like go to this area to get the secret you're missing.
Hmm.
This is more just like tool tips of like, hey, there's this enemy type. Um, but the good thing that you can do if they were actually helpful is you can pin it to the side on either side or do a picture in picture while you're playing the game. So you can live look at that preview.
Now, it says 1 out of 3. Will it automatically know as you're playing to go to the next one?
No, it's not. That's just a video player. It's you've got to
So,
press the PlayStation button again, go back to the activity, and then
so it won't automatically know you've done step 1 of 3. Where it says right above it.
no,
Okay, that's kind of
no,
lame.
it won't. That's just you're toggling the triggers. It's only really tracking the activity as a whole.
Okay, gotcha.
Um, and you can also do that with like YouTube links or streams, but it seems a little limited. Um, like if I went back to the home menu while the game's still active, I could open up this person's stream and then pin it to the side.
Hmm.
But you can't like go to the Twitch app, choose a channel you want, and say, "Hey, make this a window," and then go in game.
Right, so you
It's
couldn't watch
it's
HEDQ while you're playing.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
well, you could, but it's a really stupid workaround that you'd have to like have a friend message you a link to that Twitch stream, and then you open it up in a party and pin that to the side. But it's just it feels like they wanted to limit the web browsing capabilities because there's not even a actual web browsing app on this console for you to access directly. It's just trying to add in security, I guess, so you can't
Yeah.
edit URLs and
The Wii U, the web browser, I probably some other consoles too, but I know the Wii U, the web browser was like the main gateway for the exploits.
PS3 was that way too, I think.
yeah.
You
And I'm
just-
sure they'll find some way around it
No,
anyway. But
Wii U was because that's how you had to manipulate to like level everyone up in Hyrule Warriors.
Yeah.
Yeah, which Billy and I did.
sounds about right.
It's like you made it. I don't know. There are multiple steps, and we don't need to get into that.
Yeah.
I was saying, Sony, like in a year from now, feeling the horse, the horse's heartbeat is probably not going to make anyone decide, oh, I'm going to go out and buy a PS5. In the new.
You say that,
Assassin's
but
Creed.
I would say that is the reason you should buy a PS5.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
it's really
Well, I mean,
it's really good.
in a year from now or 2 years from now, when
Yeah,
you
that's a different story depending
yeah,
on
that's what I'm
how
saying.
much they keep up with it.
Yeah, I don't
But
know. I'll wait for the
on the
professional
other
to buy it.
hand, I'm saying this is good enough to where I feel like this should be a standard, and I might be getting third-party games on this if they do put features in like that over PC. Although I'm sure this controller works on PC, they'll probably mod in that stuff on games eventually. But like
How
the
does-
controller has its own firmware, so there's probably a way to work around that with PC
Yeah.
drivers.
How does it work on the PCs?
Um,
Question I care about.
I have not tried it yet. That is a
Okay.
very good question. I doubt any games natively detect it yet because it's probably too new for that. But I imagine Steam just recognizes it as a generic controller. But I don't know.
I looked into it a little bit. I think Steam recognizes it as a PlayStation controller at least.
Right.
But like, I got a DualShock 4 before I got a PS4 in order to use it on a PC. Uh, I don't
And
know.
honestly, I would recommend, even if you don't have a PS5, if there's decent support on PC, I would recommend getting this just because, at least in my opinion, this thing feels a hell of a lot better than the PS4 controller. Like the natural more arc it has compared to PS. I think I have one nearby, but that one felt a little more angular, like it could dig into your hand a little more, I guess.
Hmm.
This just feels a bit more natural, closer to Xbox's curvature, I guess, would be the closest thing
I know on
in terms of
my
feel.
both of my PS4 controllers, there's a spot on the back of it where, as it vibrates against my ring, it has like worn down the texture on the back of it. So I wonder if I'll be into that issue with the DualShock 5 or DualSense.
Interesting. Yeah.
I want to ask you real quick.
Go ahead.
I know you don't have any PS4 discs in your PS5 right now, and I'm not going to ask you to put one in to show us real quick, but how has I see you've got Death Stranding and Yakuza 7 there. I assume you've messed around with Death Stranding. I assume that was
This
your
is
test case.
actually just the soundtrack.
Oh, it is?
That
Okay,
I don't.
well.
I just wanted to see where it would place it because you would think it would go in media, but because it's a game DLC add-on, I guess it went into the game category.
Well, then let me ask you about Yakuza 7, because there are... is that game frame rate locked? Or does it play in 60 frames per second? Because there are times when I'm playing that I could swear the frame rate jumps above 30 at points.
Mm-hmm.
Like when a character's using a special move or something, sometimes it feels like all of a sudden it's going a lot faster. So I'm wondering, what does it look like on your end?
I've only played like an hour, so I haven't really seen enough to notice.
But I mean,
a lot of the beginning's cutscenes.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you haven't run around Kamurocho at all? The game, spoiler alert: the game opens in Kamurocho.
Really.
Okay.
Not really.
Yeah,
I
like
did
4
play a
hours,
bit.
it's true. I'm not gonna lie.
It's a while. I did play a bit of Bound, which is another PS4 game, but that's only digital. It definitely felt smoother. Load times were a lot better.
Do you have the world record for this on PS5 yet?
I mean, it's a PS4 game,
right? But
there's not a PS5 version.
Here's the interesting thing, Charlie. Does the load time change, and could that potentially change a speedrun?
I mean, maybe for some games, but probably not for this one. This uses an in-game timer that'll pause outside of loads.
I wonder if that will become a thing for other games. Do you think? All right, Charlie, you're the speedrun expert. You're president of the speedrun community. So let me ask you:
okay,
if I played, so let's say I have the world record for Uncharted 4.
Okay.
Which I don't know how long it is, but then someone else comes along, a speedrunner who's way worse than me, but then he goes and he plays it on PS5, and hypothetically the load times would change. And now he's got the world record. Which world record is the world record?
I mean, it depends on the community, really.
Well, you're the president. I just...
Okay.
It depends how. It depends on.
I have to give a diplomatic answer as the president, okay. Kenny. Don't you get how politics work?
Yeah, and as a reporter, I have to press you on it.
No, I mean, like, to your point, like The Last of Us got a big patch right before the PS5 launch that like improved load times on the remastered version by like a minute almost per load. But they go off of in-game time, so it's not really. It's only an issue if you have a community that only goes by RTA.
Gotcha.
And even then, they would end up separating it into different. You could see a designator by which console you played it on. They already had that for PS4, whether you were using a SSD that you added in or
fair enough.
Base hard drive, and because that's basically what's happening here. But I'm sure there will be some new records that come from this, of course.
Have you
We
already
here
gotten
at Speedrun Inc. appreciate all our new hardware.
Well, cool. That was one thing I was thinking about this new console being able to play. It's been a while since a PlayStation console could play past games.
Yeah, and I mean, at the very least, even if speedruns are going off of in-game time, it's still improving the real time. So you're wasting less time waiting for something to load, or casually you're waiting for something less to load. Like Demon Souls had that little smoke effect when it was loading in between areas. To me, that feels like the very edge of, hey, we're just fading to black between scenes here. It's like only 3 seconds going between areas, or like 7 seconds loading up from the home menu from a fresh save.
Now, I've got another question here. You've got
Sure.
Demon Souls on disc, and you've got Astro's Playroom digitally. If you
Yes, that comes pre-installed in the system. You don't even have to download it.
If you open up Astro's Playroom, will it keep wherever you're at in Demon Souls kind of on standby?
So if I hit the PS menu and go to the bottom bar, there's next to the home screen this switcher icon that gives you your recent activity. I think the intent was for it to kind of be like what Xbox does with storing that game state, like you said, but it doesn't actually do that. It's just like a recent activity list.
That's a shame.
I mean, you say that, but like the load times are so short, it doesn't.
Yeah, well, but I mean, like, let's say for some reason in the middle of a stage in Demon Souls, I don't know what they're called, but I'm in an area, and in the middle of this area, I get a hankering, I gotta play some Astro's Playroom. I can't just switch to play Astro's Playroom, get my fix, and then come back to where I was in Demon Souls.
I mean, yeah, you totally could do that, because I mean, the way Demon Souls saves is it's just.
Well, I mean, okay.
consistently.
In this hypothetical, I'm in a situation where I can't save.
Yeah, I mean, yes, it can do that. It will load back up the state that you were at.
Okay.
But it's not like Xbox where it'll be like the exact location. If you're switching between two games like that, it might load you back up to a menu when you go back to Demon Souls instead of. I haven't really messed around with that too much, to be honest, but we can now if you want to find out. Also, like this. I don't know if this is new for PS5, but I like this PlayStation Studios logo they have up. It's a bit too Marvel-esque, but
yeah, I don't think that was in Last of Us 2. Plus, it would have been kind of tacky to have been in Last of Us 2 for the way that game is.
I agree. So, if I do that, and then I go back to Demon Souls, I'm pretty sure it's just going to take me to the menu.
We're getting into it live on, well, not live, I'm not streaming this, but.
Also, this will take, it's just going to take you back to the
all right.
screen.
That's a shame.
That's kind of what I thought. It's not like Xbox where it has a cache of memory that it's saving for game states. But like I said, it's an SSD with pretty high speed bandwidth, so you're not really wasting that much time. Like, it's only a few more seconds for me to toggle through this menu and go back to where I was. But I'm getting all mixed around because there's so many questions. So, also in this activity tray, I wanted to say it has just like a whole list of like your trophies as well. But if you're in game, like it'll let you see this trophy specifically, but there's no way for you to go to the full trophy list from it. Like if you wanted to see what else you still needed to get.
Mhm.
Like it'll show some of, because I guess it has a limit on this row of how many items it'll show. So it'll show some of the ones that it seems like you're working on, just based on like some of these are just item spell collection sort of thing. But it doesn't show everything. So it's just another weird little UI thing of, okay, well if I actually want to see all of my trophies, I have to either, when a new trophy I obtained shows up, I have to immediately press the PlayStation button and then say go to the See All Trophies menu, or I have to go back to the home screen and then scroll down and see the rest of my trophies and
That's
settings.
dumb.
It's-
I do that like
it's a
all
little
the
weird.
time. When a trophy pops, I'll hit the PlayStation button, and then it gives me the full list of everything. And go, okay, what do I have still left to go?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, I saw that I got this. What else can I get? And it's just, there's a lot of little UI things like that seem weird. I know a lot of people were saying, or at least journalistic reviewers were saying, like, if you have a PS4 and a PS5 game of the same downloaded, it will not really show the difference. Like whenever Yakuza Like a Dragon PS5 comes out, I'll have a free copy of that since it's a free upgrade.
In
If I
theory,
download that as
Did they-
well,
did-
supposedly
yeah.
from what they've said, if I download that as well and keep it on the same system as a PS4 version, I've heard reports of like it doesn't really distinguish well between which version you're trying to access.
hey, as a quick aside, apparently Yakuza Like a Dragon just bombed on Xbox.
And,
And
well, it's probably not where most people who are familiar with the series were planning on getting it.
well, there's
So-
I'm not proud of this, but there's a part of me that is kind of glad because I feel like this game got done real dirty on PlayStation.
Yeah, I could see that. It is weird. Maybe, I don't know, have they said it's because of Microsoft exclusivity, or is it just because they didn't have time to mess with the PS5 features?
Well,
They're
I mean,
waiting to integrate them a bit more.
I would have we'll have to see what kind of features there are, but I mean, yeah, it's not coming out till March.
Yeah. I will say while I'm in the menu here, where was that? Under controller settings, you also have the option to choose the sensitivity outside of like specific in-game settings. The controller does have a microphone and a speaker. There's a hopefully mute button right at the bottom. You can set in the settings to auto mute that. I just don't remember where it is. It might actually be. So from the PlayStation bar, you can go to accessories, controller settings. I thought that was the same thing. Yeah. Somewhere in this mess, there was a way to set like microphone defaults. Maybe that was in broadcast or something, but I know you can choose to have it auto mute.
Good.
Because I don't really want to have this microphone on.
Have
I
you-
don't have to.
Have you bought any other accessories like the Pulse headset or the camera?
I have not. I've used these same headphones I have right now. They're just wired. Like 3D audio is something you can mess with in the audio output settings here if you have headphones enabled. I don't right now because it's just going through the HDMI, and you can't turn 3D audio on unless you're using a headset right now. But it doesn't. It's not like it's tied to a specific headset. You don't need the Pulse unless you just want the new Sony wireless brand for some reason.
I mean, hey, I have the gold headset and I really love it.
Yeah, that will work just fine.
Yeah.
You can adjust the 3D audio profile as well, which is sort of just tying where the drivers in each ear are directing based on your ear height.
That might be, so, well, as PS4 thing. PS4 is a big hassle to do that kind of thing. You can basically only have one extra setting at a time because it has to, like, it downloads it to your headset. And you have a switcher that's off setting 1 or setting 2, and setting 2 is your customized one. So, but that's not this console. So.
Another thing was you can set a system level game default.
Oh.
So you know how a lot of games have, especially now with cross-gen stuff, have like a performance mode versus cinematic or whatever.
Yeah.
You can set, hey, every game that loads up, set it to performance automatically, which is what I've done. Same with the difficulty and like inverted control style and subtitles.
That's
which I think
cool.
Is fantastic.
Yeah, you have
because there's a lot of games that have done this thing of where like you just, or a lot of games you don't even know whether or not they're just gonna start directly in game from the menu without letting you access options. So like with this, you don't have to worry about that.
That's a huge convenience. Wow, that's cool. Yeah.
So that was something I really liked. And there's also this thing about like spoiler warnings and like the Twitch and news feed stuff on the home screen that I was showing you. You can set to pop up a warning. I haven't really seen that anywhere, so I don't know what it's doing, but I have it turned on.
So. This is the stuff that makes a console, like a console nowadays, next gen, right? Because we're at law of diminishing returns with graphics right now, right? Like why I'm asking about Yakuza is I'm playing that game on my PS4 Pro, my professional PS4, and it still looks great, right? Yeah, I'm at 30 frames per second, whatever. It's not an action game, but it looks beautiful. So I don't necessarily need a PS5 version of it, but it's stuff like this, right? This is taking into consideration everything that's not necessarily. It's like understanding
around games.
Yeah, the wider world around games, understanding that how that's evolved. That's really cool.
And they also they try to integrate that well into when you're first booting up the console as well, because as you're going through all the options, one of the first things it lets you do is, hey, do you have a disk you want to load now so it can be installing while we're going through the rest of these options? So by the time you're done, you can just play the game and not have to wait an hour for some patch.
Yeah, that's very cool.
That sort of stuff felt like I guess that's kind of what they were going for with the activity cards too, is just like better time management sort of thing, whether or not it's implemented better.
I know
that's the kind of stuff I'd really liked. I just want to talk about like some of the home feature stuff here before I show off the other games. So they have a game library at the end here that just dumps everything that's not in the main bar. Some things I've noticed, and you might not be able to see on Discord because it's kind of really hard to tell some, but like you'll see in Demon Souls in the top right of that icon, there's a little disc item. That looks just barely slightly different for a PS4 disc. And if you're just browsing through this whole field of everything, it doesn't say unless you're looking at that PS4 square. So if you're kind of just like scrolling through quickly, you might not notice it.
Like what's an example?
The other thing,
another game that you could show.
I don't really. Okay. It's more just like those icons. Like I have 55-inch TV. I can barely see some of them sometimes. Like what I'm on right now, there's a PS Plus icon because I got it on PS Plus, and then there's that other thing that I could barely even tell what it is.
Download.
It's like a download icon. There's other stuff like, let me think, where is that example? There's some games on here, so like Final Fantasy VII. That's a PS4 game. It has a lock icon because I don't have the disc in, I guess, because it was a PS4 disc game I played.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to keep it locked until I do that. I don't know. I guess it's not that hard to tell here, but depending on the graphic of the icon, like there were some that were like a really white background that I just
Judgment.
couldn't even see what it was saying.
Like that a little bit with Yakuza.
Yeah, I guess. I know there was one that was like really bad. Yeah, like Batman. Here.
Yeah.
Like you can barely even see that download icon. It's
Yeah.
like, how are you supposed to know? So it's just like whatever. It's not that big of a deal, but it's kind of weird UI thing. There's
Yeah.
other stuff like this symbol is very common for PS4 demos that I've tried
Mm-hmm.
because they didn't bother to put them up on the PlayStation 5 store version, I guess. So it just won't let me access it, which is interesting because that means there is more than that short game list that they put out that said wouldn't run on PS5. Like this Resident Evil 2 one-shot demo or like the Resident Evil 7 demo that's like slightly different from the game.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that if you, for whatever reason, would care about keeping that, you would need to keep your PS4 to access because you can't re-download it here, even as a PS4 game.
Did you have
the only reason I would care about that is this Last Guardian VR demo
Mm-hmm.
because there's not a full game for it. It's just that, but it's called a demo, and they didn't bother putting it up on the PS5 store. So I would need to keep my PS4, even though the PS5 can play PSVR stuff.
So that's one of those things that got
really
kicked
weird,
out.
specific
Yeah.
gotchas. Yeah,
You didn't
It
have
probably won't
PT
affect
on your
most people.
PS4, did you?
I did not. From what
Yeah.
I've been told, it has the same symbol that you just can't access it
Yeah.
at all. But yeah, so just little stuff like that. You can also go to PS Plus from the same menu, and it'll show that PS Plus collection of all the games that they said were going to be, I guess, permanently free as long as you have PS Plus. I've just purchased them all, not downloaded them because this has. I'm not hurting on hard drive space or anything, but this only has about 660 gigs. So I'm trying to be conservative with what I have installed.
Why do you need to have like a ton of games installed anyways? Isn't the install
Yeah.
time like way faster because of the solid state hard drive? And didn't they do something to the network infrastructure or how?
They've definitely improved
Yeah.
the bandwidth limitation that the PS4 version of the store had, where it would just take a really long time to download sometimes.
Yeah, and if you're playing
installing
a game,
does
it'd take
seem
even longer.
faster. Yeah. I mean, you can also, like, if it's a PS4 version of a game, just have an external USB connected up, and it'll run off of that.
Mhm.
I have an external drive, but I haven't been able to test that to see how badly that impacts load times. But that's what you got. I only brought that specific part of the game library for PS Plus up because it seems like that's a better way to access some of the stuff. The store is kind of limited. I don't know. Like, it doesn't feel like there's a good way to browse for deals tied to PS Plus from this store app. Like, it's better to go to the PS Plus icon on the home menu and search for deals that way.
I have noticed that their website is now even worse than it used to be.
They did.
Yeah.
They did a website refresh right before
bungled the whole
console launched
thing.
and
Awful.
weirded out everything.
Yeah.
The only good thing about it, though, is that you can wishlist stuff now. Which
Couldn't you before?
was something. No,
Yeah, you
could
could.
not.
Yeah.
Not on the console itself.
Okay,
on the
I don't know.
store, on the store on PC, you could, I think, but not from the console directly.
Yeah, I think I know you can at least do it on the computer because I did that for a few games, waiting for them to go on sale.
But like, I've never really used the computer version of the store So
I did it just to like, oh, let me get the free PS Plus games before I forget,
right.
because you don't automatically get them in your account. You have to
Correct. You have to actually
Purchase
purchase
them.
them from the store. Yeah. Don't have to download them, purchase them.
Mhm.
But yeah,
So
I guess that's most of the stuff I had for the menu.
did you want to show off a little Astro's Playroom real quick?
Sure. I wish there was more to this game, because honestly, this is probably the happiest I've been playing video games all year.
All right.
Like, I think unquestionably this is the thing you want to play when you get this system. Like, granted, it is a very basic platformer, but just the amount of effort they put into PlayStation nostalgia and the controller uses is really crazy. So I'm sure you guys have heard already, but like, even just walking on this glass, the way they do the motors is just very vernacular and pointed to the point where it feels like it's kind of hollow, you're walking on that type of substance. Or like if you're, well, we'll go to like one of these areas.
It's so weird because you're trying to describe something to us that there's just no
trying to
way we
describe
can
feel.
understand. Yeah.
Yeah,
We can't understand it until we experience it firsthand.
right. So like at first base, it just seems like a very basic thing. Like, you just got a jump, a hover, and a punch, and a spin attack if you hold it down. But it's just everything they do with the audio and mixing that in with the controller feedback and all the PlayStation nostalgia stuff on top of that. It's just it's insane. So there's a lot of little hidden stuff. Some of it's more hidden than others, but like, you'll see this guy with a camera everywhere throughout all the levels, and that's advertising.
Hey.
A little bot with
Aloy.
yeah, Aloy. And then in the background, you see
What is that back there?
this is deep cut, probably for most people. What do you think that is? I would think this is a game you guys know better than me.
A T-Rex. Billy and I would know better.
Yeah.
Was it
Or
supposed to
maybe
be
Billy
3D
will.
Dot Heroes?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So
It's the
blocky.
pixel dinosaur.
Yeah.
Like, where's
Or-
Charity?
So, bad news, Bill. There's a lot of Konami stuff in here. There's no Zone of the Enders.
Well, then what's the point of the system even existing?
I know. I was surprised by that, actually, because they have Castlevania, Metal Gear, Silent Hill, pretty much all the big Konami stuff besides some of the others.
Which is crazy because Zone of the Enders is the only Kojima attached property where you can get the entire thing on PS4.
Yeah. Like, got a Bloodborne Hunter?
You can't get Zone of the Enders 1 on PS4.
It's not. It doesn't come with.
No, I don't
No,
think so.
they-
I think
never
it's
mind.
just
The
second one.
VR Mars one, they said they didn't have the ability to do it well. It was way too much work, or the source files weren't there. I don't know, but they said they wanted to, but they couldn't really do it.
This music is so good.
This is some of the best music of the year, honestly. So, yeah, even just like walking around on this grass, it's more noticeable in terms of rumble.
Mm-hmm.
Just, yeah, I wish I had better words to describe it, but like, if you're going anywhere where there's wind, it's noticeable. Like, if it's sand, it does enough specific frequency of vibrations that it feels grittier. If that's something that you could interpret.
And it's really, I mean, right. This pandemic sucks for a lot of reasons, but a big one, I think, in this situation is that they don't have demo displays really set up in stores. At least not that I've seen. And so It's like you can't go and experience this anywhere in for yourself unless you have one.
Yeah, and I would say I'd feel bad for Sony, but you can't even buy the system if you wanted to.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not like they're hurting for money, but it does suck if you're interested in the controller and want to understand it better. I do feel like it's something you need to try to understand, really.
Even now, even though I don't want a PS5, and I think, Charlie, we talked about this after the show last time, I want a PS5, but it's like every time I see a tweet come up about that, PlayStation Direct has a queue, I still click on it, and I don't know why. But it's like, I feel like I'm going to accidentally find myself with a PS5 someday.
I mean, I'll be completely honest. It probably only takes like 5 hours to complete this. It's probably the best thing on the system right now. And I would say it's probably worth getting a system just for this. Or at least if you could play it at someone else's place somehow, it's worth it. 100%. Like, I know, like, when I first heard about it, I thought it might be similar to something like 1-2-Switch, where just like, oh, they're just doing a bunch of gimmicky shit. I'm not going to care about this. No. It's just done with such care that you can tell this was made by people who care about PlayStation.
Yeah.
As a brand, as a series of games that someone would have played over the course of their life. It's just really good. The platforming around it, like I said, is whatever. But what they do with it is really cool.
Yeah, it's something that's more than the sum of its parts, I guess.
Exactly. And for me, they also have a speedrun mode. So the other thing that they do really well, I guess it doesn't have that here. So there's a system-wide level, at least for Astrobot. I don't know if I've seen it on any other games, but there's a system-level leaderboard menu.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll get, if I go to notifications, scroll down. So you'll get like a system level pop-up of, hey, you beat your time on this specific level. Or if someone else on your friends list beats your time, it'll pop up. And you could go, like, at any point, if you're playing another game, it'll pop up and say, if you wanted to, you can also turn it off if you don't want that kind of stuff. You can be like, oh shit, Kenny beat my time in Mountain Run. Hey, let me go try that out real quick.
Hey man,
and then in like 5 seconds, you're in the level trying it.
I am a member of the speedrunning community now.
That's very true. So, but I'm not going to try right
already.
now. I'm not
Rookie
even,
mistake.
I'm not even in top 500 or something, so I haven't put that much time into it. But it is a very cool thing. I hope they do for more games for sure. I would want to talk about this game more, but I don't want to show it off because I want you guys to try it for yourselves. I feel like it's that good.
Is there anything else you want to cover in PS5? What's your verdict? Good console or trash?
I guess really quick, I want to load up Bugsnax. I mean, it was going to be an upgrade for me no matter what, because I had a base PS4, and even PS4 games that I had weren't running super well. But from the games they have, I would say this is, at least as long as I've known PlayStation, I wasn't really paying attention to it during the PS1 or beginning of the PS2 era. This seems like the best launch lineup they've ever had, and the controller is way more of a game changer than anything on the PS4 was, in my opinion. It's to the point where I would want to have third-party games if they have controller integrated stuff. I would buy it on PS5 over PC, at least until PC gets those drivers working. For the most part, I'm very happy. I haven't seen any issues like some people are reporting with crashes, or
Yeah, and
I think I've seen some stuff about the USB ports having issues.
that stuff happens
Some
with
of
every new console.
that happens all the time.
Yeah.
For the most part, I've seen it's been a pretty smooth. Maybe outside of some UI weirdness that'll hopefully get patched later on.
Yeah, because isn't it
if
like
you-
the current PS4 UI, isn't it unrecognizable from when the console started? Or am I thinking of PS3?
No, maybe PS3.
Yeah.
PS4 feels like it's been pretty much the same.
Okay. I think the cross media bar I think changed a lot over the course of the PS3's lifetime. All right, now this is the first footage of Bugsnax I have ever seen, Charlie.
Okay,
So,
this is Chandlo.
okay. What is his deal?
He's a fantastic Chad who's just cares about his gay bro science nerd.
Gay bro science nerd?
Yes.
Okay. That's a
So,
lot of
this game,
descriptors.
this game is basically Pokemon Snap with a bunch of adult relationship problems.
All right.
So the main gameplay is you're going around catching Bugsnax to fill whatever greedy or curiosity, historical quest desire that these NPCs in the town have. You're a journalist trying to find a specific person in the game that went missing, and there was a big mix-up that caused an argument and made everyone leave town. So you're trying to bring them back, and you do that by catching Bugsnax. But the meat of the game appears to be around, which wasn't really advertised, is around like the relationships and story stuff of the characters in the town. It's a lot of like dealing with relationship issues and frustrations about dreams or just your life goals in general. Like, why are all these people on this random uninhabited island that's only filled with bugs, as opposed to doing whatever they were doing in their old life, kind of stuff, you know? It's really weird and not what I was expecting.
Yeah,
on top of an already weird game.
I was about to say, you're like unselling me on this game. Does it need all the pomp and circumstance, or could it have just been you run around collecting bugs?
I won't say so. I guess I would say I could easily see it giving off a bad impression in the beginning, because the first few characters you meet are either like a doofus or someone who's kind of too grumpy and frustrating. So it could be easy to just get annoyed at everything you're seeing in the beginning. It depends, I guess, if you want to stick with that and see that character arc change a bit. I would say I'd probably be happy if it was just the Bugsnax stuff, because this is like what I would want out of a Pokemon game, to be honest. It's like completely brand new things out in the open world with their own specific UI tendencies or AI tendencies. Then you have to figure out how to catch them. You've got a camera that you can scan and track their movement paths, and then you got a bunch of gear that you can try to catch them with. And the voice acting is probably the biggest thing. Like, I don't know how well you can hear this, but for some people it might get annoying, but I think it's So great. Just they have recorded so many voice lines, and they have a huge voice cast in this game that's done like Pokemon levels of different sounds for and tonal fluctuations for each emotional state of the bug, depending on whether it's trying to hide or get aggressive with another bug nearby or that sort of thing.
Okay.
A lot of the game's like a puzzle of how to catch the bug, because you see they went in the bushes, and you're trying to see the AI patterns of other bugs and get them to interact with the ones you want to catch. This sort of stuff. So it's like Pokemon Snap, but more gameplay. And to be honest, I know there's a new Pokemon Snap coming out, so now I kind of have my expectations raised a bit for what that game could do. I don't really expect it to do this more like intricate catching stuff, but it's the kind of thing that like I've wanted a Pokemon-esque game to be, or at least attempt.
In Pokemon Snap's defense, it is not being made by Game Freak, so it might be good.
True. Very true. But man, I mean, these bugs, it's just so joyful seeing all the different designs they came up with. And just hearing, like, once you hear Bunger enough, it gets a worm inside your brain and you can't stop hearing it. It might sound bad, but I love it.
What is Bunger?
I don't like that word.
You don't like Bunger?
Yeah, do I need to bleep that out?
I don't like that word. It doesn't sound
like
good.
Bunger?
So is this a type of bug?
Bunger. It's a Bunger. Let me see. I don't think I have one. There's like a little farm here you can keep some of them at.
And so just hearing it gets stuck in your head?
Dude, it's an infectious level of charm is what I'm trying to say. At least for me. See if I use Bunger over this way. But like, you've got like a giant ass moth that's a pizza. You've got a centipede that's like a bunch of sub sandwiches shaped together. You've got Bunger, which is a cheeseburger with curly fries. Like, I don't know. I see this isn't gelling with you guys, but
No, not quite.
for me, it's incredible, man.
Maybe it's something that, when I get the professional PS5, as Billy loves to put it, which they've already been hinting at, but
Really? Have they?
yeah, we'll talk about that in the non-recorded after show, but because if you did claim this last month, and Billy, I don't know if you bothered, but it is free, air quotes, on PS5.
Yes, it's free with Prius Plus if you got it last month.
Yeah,
I don't think it is anymore.
I'll check.
That's what I
out,
got.
but
I'd say it's definitely worth that price. I don't know what it launched for actually, but it's like 15 hours to 100%. I would also say, if you care about doing all the trophies, do them before you beat the game, because it takes a interesting turn, and you probably won't want to play more of the story after the ending. Bugsnax are weird. That's all I'll say.
I want you to spoil that for me when we're done. I want to know what you're talking about.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's most of it. Those are the main things I played. I platinum Astro, like 60% through Demon Souls, and I pretty much 100% of Bugsnax. There's a couple things I didn't do because of the story.
Wow.
But I like it. I like the PS5 for the most part. I think obviously there's things that could get better about it, like the aesthetic design. I'm still not really gelling with, but it's hidden behind my TV, so I don't really care. Yeah, I would I would recommend a PS5 if you care about Demon Souls. Even though I ragged on it a bunch, it's still a Souls formula with good exploration. And they've added in some good new sounds and new items and aesthetics and some quality of life improvements that I like. Bugsnax is definitely worth it if you had it for free on PS Plus. Haven't tried out Miles Morales, that new Spider-Man, but I will probably when that gets cheaper.
Yeah, me too, but I'll play it on PS4. Well, cool, Charlie. Thanks for showing off your PS5.
Yeah.
Next week, we're going to gather. Billy, this is news to you, but next week we'll gather and we will kind of have every YouTube channel is going to be doing this, so why don't we also do it? We're going to kind of take a look at the Game Awards, which will be on December 8th, and kind of discuss who won, who maybe should have won, who wasn't nominated for Game of the Year and is also called Yakuza Like a Dragon and maybe should have been. But we'll kind of dive into that next weekend. So anyone have any parting thoughts before we kind of... Billy hasn't been here in a while, and we'll finally get that nice Billy goodbye. But anyone else have any parting thoughts before that?
There we go. I made the Haro robot. The light's pointing at it, so you can't see it. But this is a pretty legit model.
Here, I'll focus on you. There we go.
It's a pretty legit model. It's covered in these 3mm holes, which you definitely can't see, but that's kind of a standard hole for the 1/144 scale models, so you can just load them up with all sorts of nonsense. I haven't gotten around to doing that, but I think the last time I was on, I just got this, and now I have finished it.
How's the rest of your backlog?
I don't want to talk about it.
All right, Billy. All right, Billy, go ahead and take us out.
Goodbye!